So I want to give you 12 tips so you can get through the new dungeon as easy as possible. These are all of them, and the first tip is group optimization. You want to sort artifacts, mounts, companion enhancements, what summoned companions you have, and certain gear and even race. Now the latter ones are not as important as the initial ones. You especially want to have the right artifacts and mounts. You don't have to have the exact ones, you just want to have ones that are going to increase the party's team, but these would be like the ideal best ones, giving you the highest effectiveness. You can take off a huge amount of the boss's hit points just within an artifact call if everybody is set up correctly to take advantage of such. For example, this boss we get down already to like 60% and get to the next phase, which just makes everything so much easier. So make sure you set up your group properly and you'll have a far smoother time getting through this dungeon. Tip number 2, floor is lava. So that is to do with the first boss in this dungeon, where you have the Thun Hulk, Scorpion and the Yuan-ti. When you get his hit points down to a certain point, he will initiate the mechanic floor is lava. This puts these black pools on the ground and you need to just keep jumping up to avoid it. You have to make sure you get the gravity generators low in order so you can actually jump. Now you can get to one spot right here where you don't have to jump at all. You're above this gravity generator. Can be useful if you aren't a fan of jumping all the time. And also if you want to be able to say attack. If the Yuan-ti is there, you can attack her and get say some action points regen. You get like floors, lava again here. We need to make sure the gravity generators are low before we can jump up. And then you could go to the safe spot again, sit up here, hit the Yuan-ti to make sure your action points are full. Mine are already. The next tip is the Scorpion. As a tank here, you might want to consider not taking the Scorpion. Now because they start right next to each other, it can be not so easy, especially if you're running a charging bull ring. But the Scorpion is going to place a debuff on you. We see this right here in the top left. If you tooltip that, you can see you're going to receive 25% increased damage from everything. So the boss is going to hit you a ton harder. And that is why potentially you want to have somebody else to tank the Scorpion. You could run this dungeon with 2 tanks. Sure, that's a way. Or you could just have a damage dealer take the Scorpion. The Scorpion doesn't hit that hard other than that red area he might put on the ground. Same as in Lair of the Lost Mouse, that same effect. Puts the red area and then he'll hit it with his tail. And don't be within it and you'll be fine. But a damage dealer shouldn't be getting attacked much, shouldn't take any other damage then from, say, the Scorpion, should be able to move out of the area. And so not having the Scorpion on the tank relieves a lot of their pressure. They take a lot less damage without having that debuff. And additionally, you will avoid the mechanic where you get spiders. That is tied to the fact that the Scorpion is close to the Thun Hulk, and then he will hatch spiders. If you properly keep them separate, you will never have to deal with all of these spiders coming in. You can see Captain Flump even announces when they do, they hatch and then they all jump at you. And if you don't kill them in time, they explode and could one-shot you. So just be aware of that with tip 3. Tip 4 is the Yuan-ti. Make damn sure you keep that Yuan-ti, that snake-like creature, away from the Thun Hulk, or it will just heal him back to full and all your hard work is wasted. So you seriously need somebody to control the Yuan-ti. And what we do is just have somebody push her into the corner. So she's always going to be on the top of the map over here. And there are multiple classes that can push. It's not just the wizard with repel. Sure, it's the easiest, but there are a lot of other classes that have push abilities. So don't go being exclusive and like wizard only. That's kind of ridiculous. Of course though, there are some classes which do not have a push effect, and without a push effect it's an awful lot harder. You can chain stun her. For example, on a paladin you could use Burning Light, and on the healer path Banishment, but there's always going to be a little bit of downtime with those where the Yuan-ti can move and get closer to the boss to heal him. So Paladin, not a great choice with that. Barbarian also does not have any pushback abilities, and again they don't have enough abilities to chain stun either. The Bard damage dealer can use Contraceptime to push. Unfortunately the healer cannot really do anything. The cleric, both on damage dealer and on healer, can use Sunburst, charge it up to full and you'll push enemies very far away. The fighter can very simply use Shield Slam and also Bull Charge. You can knock back enemies with that and knocking them down. Just make sure to use Bull Charge without momentum and you will also be able to knock back and down. The ranger can root the Yuan-ti, but they will give up a lot of damage by doing so. And it's a lot trickier. Rogue really can't do much. Most of their CC is just daze. Warlock, both on healer and DPS, can use Arms of Hadar to knock down and Hadar's Grasp to hold. So possible, but again, they don't have any pushback, which means she's still going to slowly but surely make her way to the boss, so better to have a different class doing it. And Wizard just has Repel, as most of you are probably all aware of, along with most of their other powers also having some control effect, even Entangling Force. Won't do anything for quite a while. So ultimately, yes, you can use a wizard, you can use a fighter, you can use a cleric, you can use a bard DPS. All of those will work very readily to push the Yuan-ti away. You do not need to have a wizard. But let's move on to tip number 5. In this first boss, Companions and Mirage clones struggle to attack the Thunhulk for whatever reason. Even your owlbear that you summon with the belt item will struggle to hit the Thunhulk. You see like the Companions all focusing on the Scorpion next to me rather than actually hitting the Thunhulk. So it's not very important to run a Striker Companion in that boss because they will not really do much. And then the Mirage weapons are just a complete no-go there because the clone won't attack the boss. It'll attack the Scorpion instead, if it can. But we move on to tip 6, the Astral Font. And this is for the second boss fight, the Zodar. Do not be afraid to use the Astral Font as a safety zone. It will always be a safe spot, so you can always go there. Just be aware that you can only stay within there up to 4 stacks of the Astral Burn before you're permanently dead. But as melee damage dealers, if you have a very melee focused group, you may want to alternate between the safe zone and the middle. You can do that just jumping into the middle for when the mirrors go off and then back out of it. That way you don't have to move the boss a lot like we do here. And that way melee damage dealers can get a lot more time on target. But still, you should be able to get through this boss no problem, even if you're moving a lot, as long as you time your artifact calls and make the most of those. Have your group optimized for them. And that moves us to tip 7, the reset and safe spots. When fighting this boss, again, you have those mirrors which will continually burst off. However, there will always be a safe spot whenever you phase this boss. And that is the far top side here. The side where you're going to go and continue on the tower and go fight Prince Zeleth. So when you get the boss to that 60%, you phase and you end up with 3 mirrors triggering, just as we do here. And the safe spot will always start at the far top side. So that's where you want to position yourselves before you get to 60%. And you know that's going to be safe and you can go like artifact call if you took a while to get to 60%. Most groups will be able to deal more damage and be able to get to 60% within nearly just 1 artifact call. Otherwise, the safe spot will always rotate just 1 tile. It'll never go to the far opposite side. So just be aware when you're on a tile like here, it's either left or right, diagonally to the next safe spot, and just look out for that. You can see again at these thresholds of hit points of the boss, that's whenever you're going to hit a reset point. However, you will have to get through 4 sets of mirrors before it resets, and again, it will always be safe at the top side first. Again, that's particularly valuable when you get to the 60% and you get the 3 mirrors firing. So we go artifacts here and we burn the boss down. We know we're safe here where the boss was. The first set of mirrors is not going to go here because this again will always be safe before the mirrors start firing. So now we know then we have the next set is going off now. So we have to just rotate one tile over. We only have 2 mirrors, so we do have 2 save spots, so we could choose either left or right. But then the third set is firing, so we can go back to the top for the save spot. However, we got to 60%, which means we reset. So we know for sure the top is safe, and then 3 mirrors are firing, and we then need to make sure to look out for it's either left or right. If you're on voice call and you have somebody set to look for the safe spot and can call it, it can make things a ton easier. Like you can see most of the time, I don't even look around because I'm on voice and they'll just tell where to go. But now we move on to tip number 8. Crystals and safe spots, but this is for the last boss. You may have figured this out for yourself already, but whenever the middle crystal fires, creating just the red areas on the ground like this, it will trigger the outer crystals to fire next. So you always know, once the middle has fired with the red areas, the exact crystals that were shot at are going to fire next. You can see they all glow, and then when they do fire, you can see the exact areas that it covers. What that means is you can deduce already where the safe spot is going to be based on how the red area was telegraphed. So we know anywhere that it's not red is going to be safe except for the opposite side of this one, because we know this mirror is getting triggered, so it's going to fire all the way across the arena. So you can see it's then like an X here, and this area here is safe for sure, and so is this one here. And then you can also denote that this one in front of this mirror is safe, and this one over here is also going to be safe, as exactly what you see when they do then go and fire. They will always fire at the opposite crystal on the far side. And again, the crystals on the outside will only get triggered by the crystal in the middle, which will fire when they get hit by the red telegraph from the middle one. Like this again, you can see those ones are all going to get hit, and 10 seconds later, the outer ones begin to glow and they fire next, and you can deduce exactly where the safe spot's gonna be. So when I play as tank here, I look towards the middle. We can see what shape the red is in, and then we can deduce exactly where the safe spot's gonna be. And I know where I'm standing is then perfectly fine for the mirrors, for those crystals, because there's no red where I'm standing, and we can calculate like this one here on the far side is going to shoot across this way, and that way we know we don't stand in line of that mirror, and then we're going to be just fine. So again, the mirrors are going to glow. I already know this is perfectly safe here, and I can just stand here and I don't have to hug the wall. Hugging the wall can be risky because if you're all grouped up like that, somebody can have their hitbox collide a little bit and you end up not exactly on the spot. So again, the middle is going to fire. So we know these two are just going to trigger opposite each other. That's fine. They're already telegraphed where the danger zone is. Then this one over here is going to fire across, and it's also just going to be in a straight line. So as long as you're not on the opposite side of this one, you're also fine. So we know where we're standing is perfectly safe. So we can just stay here and wait for the mirrors to fire next rather than running out to die. And that way, you again don't have to hug the wall always for the mirrors. Again, the middle is going to fire. Can be a little bit harder to see, but you can see this mirror is going to get shot at. The one for this red's going to get shot at, and the one for this red's going to get shot at. So we know once again where we stand is safe because those 3 mirrors all there are going to fire across the arena and never hit over here. So that is the exact pattern for the center and how to denote exactly where it's going to be safe next. Again, where I'm standing here is going to be safe based on which mirrors got triggered. But let's move on to tip number 9. You may have experienced this yourself a lot. When fighting Prince Zelith, you have to unfortunately aim up a little bit or just some of your abilities will not attack him. You have to look up, like at his hitbox, his feet, in order to actually hit him. It's very annoying, and I hope the devs will adjust that a bit. Definitely was something to get used to when fighting this boss. Tip number 10 is the tank's location. This actually does not matter so much because Zealeth will never move. He will always stay where he is, and he'll just hit you from ranged. As long as you have the threat, you can be anywhere in the arena and he'll still attack you. So you don't have to worry about being right up next to him. Especially if you have ads coming in, you might want to go and take the ads and just, don't be right next to Prince Zealeth, or DPS will struggle a bit. So we just make sure we have the threat of those enemies, and then we can just fight them all over here while Zealeth's over there. He also has shield, so there's no need for damage dealers to even do damage to him. And that also leads us on to tip number 11, focus the boss. But this is only when the boss doesn't have shield and when there are no clones. So you might get a wave of ads spawning in. The tank should just go and get the ads and bring them to the side and tank them wherever is safe. Don't bring them to the boss, and just have the damage dealers focus the boss. That way you can deal more damage to the boss when it matters. Because the boss is just going to teleport all over the place all the time, is just going to cause more debuffs. So the longer you have the boss standing around and not having a shield or not doing clones, the longer the fight is going to take. You can kill the ads when the boss is gone, when he's shielded, or when he's cloned. So again, as the tank, you don't need to be on top of the boss. You can tank the ads a little bit away. That way DPS are not taking splash damage from the ads who have multi-target hits, and they aren't gonna miss target as well. So again, focus the boss when he's not shielded and when he's not cloned, and just kind of ignore the ads. Let the tank take them. And finally, tip number 12. You might struggle more in this boss depending on your timing of artifact calls, because he could just teleport mid-artifact call and you lose a ton of damage potential. So you generally want to time it when he's in animation. So you could wait for him to teleport, and then he's doing this animation, and in most cases he will also follow up with the donut animation like he does here, and so we do get the full 10 seconds for a nice artifact call, getting all that damage in. Additionally, he might do a tank buster, and that's also a good time to do an artifact call because he will spend a lot of time just charging that up. So just be aware of what the boss is doing and time your artifact calls with it, so he's not just going to teleport mid-artifact call. Ultimately, those are my 12 tips for this dungeon as per what I have learned playing the dungeon over the past weeks, and it's a good bit of fun in my opinion. I like this dungeon compared to a lot of others they have released. I think it's done pretty well. Others may complain that it's not long enough, but in my opinion, ads, just killing groups of enemies, is just filler anyway. The boss fights are where it's all interesting and where the fun is to be had, to be honest. Learning the mechanics and figuring out what's the best strategy to play them to be able to make the fight a ton easier. Learning those mirrors instead of having to huddle against the wall definitely make things a lot more friendly, and you may have just found yourself, even when you do huddle against the wall, that sometimes you still get hit when you think you shouldn't have. Just be aware of when the middle fires with the red telegraphs. Have a quick look which outer mirrors are going to get triggered and move accordingly. You have plenty of time with that then. Additionally, don't be so exclusive to the wizard. It's not the only class that has a push ability for the first boss. Overall, have fun and good luck, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.